Hello, guys, and welcome. Have you ever asked yourself what's the difference between final and constant? In this video, I'll tell you what's the difference between the final and constant. So, um, let's uh, let's create a variable called name, a final variable called name equal John. Okay, and create also a constant variable called age. Should be an integer. So, like, what is the difference between the two of them? If you try to change name, you will have an error, correct? And same thing for age. If you try to change age, you will have also an error because it's constant, you can't change. And final, it's same thing, you can't change the value of it. The main difference between the two of them, that constant for the constant, it will be known and set at the compile time. So if we look at this picture here, so you have your code and there's the compiler, then from the compiler you have your app, the program. So when you write code here, when you write constants, the constant final value will be here, like while compiling it will set the final value, and then at the program it will be that value. So if we go back to the code again, so age will be 29, it will not change, while final at the runtime, you can just have a user input. Let's say if you have a text field, you can set maybe that text to that variable at the runtime, while the constant, it will be known and set in the compile time. So let's say if you want to set you have a final, let's create another final value, also string. Let's call it new name, and let's call it John. If you set it like this, if you see nothing happen, it's perfectly fine. You can set the value later, this will be known later in the app, while this one you can just set any other kind of variables. It should be another constant. So if you set new age, then set it here, you will see in that way it's okay, because this is known, it's 29, it will not change. Now you can also with constants do operations. So this is known at the compile time, it can be calculated. So at the compile time, this two will be summed together. So for this it will be 58 at the end, at the compile time. So you can think of this, if we look how this will work, like when the compile start, for this code it will be always the same, nothing will change. But for this part, if you use constant, it will allow the compiler to do a lot of optimizations. So the compiler will come here and will see new age is 29, age is 29 plus new age, which is mean 58. So the compiler will just calculate that directly and make it the value. So you are saving the runtime effort. Instead of doing these calculations in runtime while the user is using the app, it will be done in the compile time, as we mentioned here. So in the compile time, all these optimizations will be done instead of doing it here while the app is using the app, while the user is using the app. So if you see here, as I said, this at the end will be 58. The compiler will do the optimizations. Another kind of optimizations that could be beneficial. So if you say if age equal 30, then print, let's do that, let's print age is 30. Okay, so what is the age here? So as we said, when the compiler come and the optimization start, this will be 58, correct? So it will come here, the compiler, 58 equal, is it equal 30? No, it will be removed. It will be removed from your final binary, your final program. It's like it was not there. So when it's reached here, okay, you have it in the code, it will come to the compiler, it will do its optimizations, it will see it's not used and can't happen ever. So it will just remove it, and it will just come, it will not come to the code itself, sorry, to the binary, to the program itself. So this is one of the main differences. It will allow compiler to do optimizations. Also imagine that you have constant value, let's say for debug, constant boolean debug equal true. So let's say you are doing some in kind of debug, you are adding a lot of code, okay? If you set in the release mode, when you release, if you set this as false, okay, this constant, in the compile time, all the code you wrote, it will just disappear. It will just disappear. This is one of the optimizations that the compiler is doing. So constant, as I said, it will allow the compiler to do a lot of optimizations. Now, whenever you can use constant, it's better to use constant, but each one has its own use. Like in some cases, you can just use constant. Imagine you are taking the username as an input from the user. You can just save that in constant, because that will change and the user can enter anything. So you can't set that value as constant. So it has to be final. While for other things, okay, simple things that known at development time, you can just use always constant, and you will allow the compiler to do optimizations when you do that. So this is the differences between constants and final. And just as a recap, we said final and constant values can't be changed. Constant will allow the compiler to do more optimizations, and final will be set in the runtime, while all the constants will be calculated and known at the compile time. I think this is the main difference between the two of them. I hope that you liked the video, guys. Please, if you liked it, like the video and subscribe and share it with your friends, maybe on LinkedIn. Thank you.